Hello and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Friday, April 16th, 2021, and today's topic is called Sky Shine. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening April 10th through the 15th, 2021. And before we get into those sky observations, I'd like to say good day, osio, how, buongiorno, guten tag, kia ora, jambo, kedu, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, dzień dobry, konnichiwa, dobrohonya, annyeonghaseyo, Boa-tarji, Dobry den, Aloha Winala, Kalimera, and Hudendach. And today's starter image is simply of more blue and gold macaws in Miami, Florida. I featured these on a previous starter image in a previous show. Have a look there if you want to know a little bit more about these fascinating parrots and symbolism and spiritual meaning behind them. In the meantime, we're going to get going with the show. A big heartfelt thanks for being here and welcome if you're new or returning. If you are new, I'd just like to go over some little housekeeping here. If you're returning, you can skip ahead. But I'm going to be looking at original and enhanced photos. And when I say enhanced, it simply means I've taken the original photo and edited attributes of it, such as contrast, brightness, color saturation, things of that nature, just to better highlight areas of interest in any given photo. I'll also occasionally drop in some letters just to kind of call out, some key points of a photo that I'll be covering. And there are going to be probably many more happening in any given photo that I won't get to. And as always, if you see something else that I haven't flagged or highlighted and you want to see it enhanced in a future show, just let me know in the comment section below and I'll be happy to do that. Also, I'm going to be referring to some stuff as cloud in quotes, which implies that things might be cloaking in and behind the clouds. Like, for instance, letter B, it's like a perfect triangle back there. And those just don't occur in the sky in nature. And we've been seeing those routinely more and more, as time goes on. And so when I talk about, cloaking material around these things, that's the cloud in quotes. It's just referring to something that I'll call plasma. It's just some type of cloaking material that's heavier than water vapor and lingers in the air longer and can cloak things. So that's what I'm referring to going forward. Now, when I mean craft, cloaking, that can be a 3D tangible object that you can knock on it, touch on it, or it can be something more interdimensional, more ephemeral and ethereal-like, or in phantom-like, or it could be something that's a 3D solid that just happens to be arriving or leaving, so phasing in and out of state. That's pretty much it. So let's get going and look at these little areas of interest with enhancement. So we're going to look at the top image first. And 8.1, there just seems to be a more solid rectangular mass hiding in behind some of these wafting, plasma or cloaking material around the edges. Same thing here. There's a more solid triangle happening, maybe even an object even in front of it, with, again, this kind of looser consistency of stuff that seems to be cloaking it. And look at that clean, sharp edge at the bottom. Now we're going to hop down to the image below for the C and D points because they show up better. And look at this. We have a spherical form with some bulges happening out on the face of it. We also have like a vapor trail that looks like it has a little object that either sprung out of it, something of that nature. And then D.2, there just looks like something of solidity hiding in here. So I'm going to leave this to you to further, investigate and look around on your own, see what else you can find, and see what you think is going on in that scene. Okay, now this one, most of these are just going to be labeled strange cloud activity. But on the left-hand side is just the original view. On the right-hand side, we have enhancement because, again, the camera phone that I'm using and any similar devices, they just pick up a more vast range of light sensitivity and photosensitivity than what our eye can do. So in a lot of these images, I'll just feel something or something just doesn't look quite right, and then we're going to be really looking at them highlight with these different tools that we have. Wonderful tools of editing attributes. Anyway, this scene is really odd because we're going to look at A, B, C, and D just very quickly. A, it's more for just this fanned out, radiating shape and motion happening here. Then we get into something that's a little more choppy in nature than this. And when I say choppy, I'm just saying to the naked eye, this even looks fuzzy and choppy, as you can see over to the left. And I've just kind of coined my own phrase, I think. I'm calling that just staccato cloud. And staccato just is a musical term meaning choppy, discontinuous and intermittent. That's what it reminds me of. So something's going on in here, in and on its own, compared to this. And we've got like this space between them. Then we have C, just zooming off and doing its own thing with a groove in it, with a shadow, or with a break in whatever is happening in here. And then we go down to D, and it's just a vertical line of movement. So what's going on in this scene? It's just a lot of different movement in one general, vicinity, good proximity to each other. It's all in the same altitude, latitude, everything. And yet we have all different types of motion. So that always does pique my interest, to look at it further. Now we have a scene of just strange cloud activity at sunset again. This is looking northwest, northwest, and we're going to look at areas A, B, and C. So here we go. It just seemed to be, almost like a prong shape thing happening here, and even repeated, echoed here, with maybe some dark shapes lurking within it. Then we have B.1. I'm not even sure what's happening with this thing. And another shape going off at yet another angle this way. And then we have this little object, looks like it's floating in here, has some dimension. It looks like it has some symmetry happening in here with these two curves. This also looks to me like something is kind of flying off here. See what you think. All right, in this scene, we've got A, B, and C, and D to look at. And this just kind of welled up all of a sudden, this kind of storm-ish, storm-like activity to the northeast in the afternoon, not quite towards sunset. So let's look at that with some enhancement. And what's interesting here is we get this burst of red-pink color signature. Do look in the description box below for some theories on what could be generating that. In this case, I think it's something local and something that's responsible for this sudden atmospheric disturbance going on in the sky. We also have this flash, this like bright point of white light happening off to the northeast at a time when there should be no, intense bright white light happening in the background, or, lighter signature. Then we've got this little object kind of masked behind some other kind of haze. There's something happening in here. It gets a little bit mappy in this rendition of it, though. So anyway, just see what you can be happening in here. I also see a very clear edge here, an echoed parallel line of at the bottom happening here. This looks like a part of a bigger form, and again looks like a triangle to me. Then we've got this little opening. See what you think. It's just such a strange collection of elements happening at once. We're going to zoom in on this little opening, and just at this particular vantage point as the clouds were passing, it just happened to form a triangle. It's not the true shape of whatever's going on in here, but I just found that interesting. And I accidentally got these birds flying right in these precise moments. That was pretty interesting too, just compositionally. Okay, now this, we're still looking at that strange sudden activity that burst up, and we'll look at A, B, C, and these areas. So here now we get like a dark shadow happening in here. It looks like something, again, with a trail that came in at 8.1. C.1, again, we've got this burst of light now. In addition to this one, we've got this red-pink color signature is persistent, and we've got this real straight edge happening along this whole thing. So actually, B.1, where I have that, could be a part of a much bigger overall object is what I'm seeing. And I don't even know what's going on over here. It's just strange how it's starting off this way and then arcing down. That's just not a natural cloud form either. And then we have like these indentations here. That's also pretty curious. So see what you think is going on in this overall scene. It's a little strange. Talking about strange, we got more strange cloud activity, and look at B is where we're going to really focus. But we'll look at A, B, and C on this one with enhancement, and look at B.1, just overall strange. That's no cloud form that I've ever grown up with living decades on this planet. I just can't even explain how that would form naturally. It's also kind of curving down. And then we've got a sharp angle here, so I suspect there might be something cloaking back beyond in this formation. Anyway, there's also some activity up in here, just different cloud consistency, this whole thing as well. Just nothing about this says natural. See what you think. All right, then we've got A and B. This is on a sunrise looking east. And what caught my attention was we've got warmer signature happening here. This seemed to be a standalone form floating along, which is not a typical cumulus cloud or cirrus cloud or stratocirrus, stratocumulus, nothing. Just a strange shape with something trailing off of it. So we're going to look at that with enhancement. At the same time, we've got this pure white cloud, also very, relatively in the same neighborhood, same altitude, so, why are they so different? So I do cover that on other shows about the idea of sky wisps or air elementals, and have a look there at previous shows. So now we're going to jump over to the enhancement, and still we get this pure white formation. This looks like a perfect circle, almost like a crater, an indentation here at B1. And then at 8.1, I was just trying to get at what is going on. So we've got the more solid mass form with more of the cloaking material around the fringes. And then we even have, again, little solid objects that look like they're in the trail. This is also looking interesting too, these things that are detached off of it. So anyway, we'll look at this again. Bottom view, can't really get at what that little speck is, so we're going to abandon that for now. But AA gets interesting. There's this little feature here. And BB, it looks more white. It's kind of popping out as its own animal. It looks like something of solidity is happening in there, and we'll check that out in a minute. And then again, we've got these little elements, just seem so strange. So we're going to go up to the left-hand corner. I take out sometimes all of the color in a color photo, or put color in where there isn't, just to help the brain to eye connection see things a little differently sometimes. So here we'll look at AA.1. Again, we have that might just be cloaking material or some other object. BB.1, that looks like a sharp piece of like metal or something, has a right angle. It's picking up some, reflection. So to me, that is something, like a feature popping up out of there. Then we see these little masses a little more solid. So let's jump over to the right. We've zoomed in a bit more. Again, we see that feature, put a little more enhancement with different color in there to take a look at it. That to me looks like definitely like a designed element. But see what you think. And then again, I think we've got some solid chunks of shapes in here. So to me, this is an overall cloak and craft of some type. Then we've got A and A.1. So on the left-hand side, and we have B, sorry, up here too. But look at this. This is an imprint where we've got a void, but it's making an arrow shape, heading down. We see that better to the right. I exaggerated some of the enhancements just so we can better see that void, that blue arrow pointing down. And then B.1 is just looking, this becomes a little clearer in the next shot or so. So let's take a look. Yep. Left-hand side's the original, so we've got that arrow. It's kind of falling apart because something is misty, like is moving down, very fuzzy and blurry into this scene. I'm not sure what that is, what that phenomenon is, and what that thing is doing, but clearly it's intervening here. And then we look at C. There's another shape with a point, like an arrow with another arrow echoing, splayed beyond. So we're going to take a look at that too in a minute. And then we go over to look at B2 to B3. This is starting to look like more like an object with geometry to it a little bit. And then we even get to a D and D.1. This shape starts emerging. So there's something with shadow to it. Looks like a little pipe sticking out or something. See what you think is going on in there. And sorry, that shouldn't be there. That little C point was a carryover. Okay, but here we go to C.2. And there we see this kind of, in the void, we see a point. And then in the solid of this little cloud mass, we see the point. So again, it's just look at this angle and this angle are parallel. So something's going on. I don't know if this is part of a force field in front of this thing, if there's a cloak and craft in here or what. But it's just strange to see the same echo and shape happening in the sky. And here we can see it a little bit better, that cutout and then that shape. All right, here we go. We're going to look at another cloud, strange cloud grouping. This is again east at sunrise. And again, this just is floating along. It just looks like a strange collection of bits and pieces. Doesn't look like any natural cloud formations. We've got the white sky wisps happening above as well. So we're going to look at this with some enhancement. Again, at the bottom, taking out some color, and we start to see these are echoing, curves, and they look like they have dimension and shadow to them. And then here we're just getting silhouettes more or less of things that looks a little more triangular-like at 8.1. And we're going to go up above and take a look at all of this a little bit more. Look at these little jagged things. They look like they have intelligent design to them. They echo and they have dimension. Very strange. So it looks like to me like pieces of something sticking up out of cloaking material. Then up here it gets interesting because we look at this. This looks like a rod or definite stick coming out of something here. And again, we've got the triangular shape and other strange shapes, kind of hiding in here, whatever is going on. Hard to say, but see what you think. All right, now we're going to take a look at this. This photo is actually rotated a little bit on angle, but this overall assembly of cloud was pretty interesting and very low in the atmosphere. So we put enhancement to the right just to see if we could better get at anything. And there's not too much. There's a little strange activity happening where my cursor is going there. It seems to carry along here. It's a little bit whiter than the rest of the color signature. And then this seems to be its own animal as well. So we'll take a look at that a little closer coming up. Then we have what we were just looking at here. So now I've righted the photo horizontal landscape format. So now we have like a twin thing happening over here almost. And then again, we've got like this more white ethereal kind of strip happening in there at the same time, while this is like a dark gray. And again, these are all right next to each other, so I'm not sure why this is so dark. So let's take a look with some enhancement. And here we go. We see some of that red signature pulling up off of where the sunrise is supposedly coming up. We've got a darker shadow happening back in here at B3 and, kind of beyond. And then at C.3, we start to look at this. Again, why is this so different in character from everything else? There's just two of these things like happening in the sky. at this time. So we'll look at that C.3, now going to C.4 a little bit more. And it definitely looks like we have some type of object in here, cloaking, maybe interdimensional. Things are, coming off of here, perhaps interdimensional. It's just bizarre. So again, we've got this form in the sky with this movement, and this is pitching on a totally different angle, doing its own thing. See what you think that is. All right, then we're just zooming back out just to look at the overall view. And again, we have those twin little formations with that kind of strip coming across that was very ethereal and white in nature. And then we have a whole different system, or, not system, but kind of what I want to say, shape of activity and that kind of staccato pattern happening. So we look to the right in the enhancement. I really couldn't get at too much more, but I just wanted to illustrate these two shapes and just some strangeness going on within them. There's even like a hole forming in this one. All right, then we're going to zoom in a little bit more because that ethereal light really had me intrigued. This kind of milky white light, not light, but milky white lit plasma or whatever this material is, or just wisp material. So we'll look at that with some enhancement. And look how strange we get these like bright highlight bits happening above, with this version of the enhancement. Really strange, but we definitely see clear elements of the wisp-like formation, kind of a hole forming in here. Just the whole scene is really odd. All right, then we're going to look at something at south-southwest at sunrise, and just it looks strange that something was very wisp-like, but yet also forming geometry. Seemed to have like a structure, something forming here. So we'll look at it with some enhancement, and I'm just kind of left with more questions on this one because now it just seems like we have different isolated pieces, doing completely different, angles in the sky, even though they're all right in the same area, and it was not windy at all. The sun would be coming up to the left when looking at this photo. And it just looks like here, look at, there's a trail, very clear to me anyway. Looks like two things are launching off of this, almost like this is a launch pad with a little bit here popping off, and then there's a clear trail stream around this triangular form. So I'm going to call those cloak and craft. And there are little pieces here too, which might either be, again, with a trail behind it, either craft or some type of sensor or other equipment. I really don't know about that, so I'm just going to throw out some theories there. This also could be an object that's kind of cloaking within this overall assembly. Looks like a pointed ellipse with a clear shape with symmetry to it. All right, now we're going to look at this scene, and this is towards sunset. So on the left, it's a little hard to pick things out to the human eye, but we've got a clear stream coming that gets interrupted by something and then puddles out more into like a wisp-like form. But to me, I started to see the makings of a triangle. So we're going to look over with enhancement to the right, and here you can see it much better. So we've got this thing zooming down here, then it goes into this kind of haze out, and then back into some wisp-like materials. So what's going on here? Is this something that, was like a craft coming down and then is going in interdimensional on us so we can't see it? I'm not sure. There's more interesting stuff, though, happening down in the sea area, so we'll get to that, I think, coming up. Anyway, now we're going to look to the west at sunset, and we start to just see this overall strange wisp-like activity once again, but now it's really chaotic and very dense. I haven't really seen this happen too much before. And we've got this broad arc moving along here with an imprint at A, making an interesting shape in there, outlined by the wisp material. And then B, we have some interesting, like a circular form, semicircular form happening with a little sphere dot in the middle here. And then C is strange just for the color signature. We start to get like a shadow, like a smoky color. And there was no smoke down, toward the horizon. So we're getting darker signatures, kind of masking out the golden signature of where the quote-unquote sun is setting. And here we're going to look at this with some enhancement. We get the golden signature, supposedly where the sun is setting, but then look at this. We're picking up that shadowy part is actually red-pink signature. So I believe all of this is employed to mask out what's really going on and why we're getting that shadow in the sky. So again, look at the description box below to see the theories on what could be causing that red-pink color in the sky. All right, now we're going to look at a scene to the south, just panning over to the south from where we were. And look at this. These wisps look like they're rising up in a radial pattern. Very odd, very, very odd. So let's look at that with some enhancement. And look at this, it's banking up like this. This is doing its own thing with its own consistency. We've got little bits, again, this is moving, has such odd movement for, if you think about just regular wind physics, there would just be an airstream moving along this way, nothing blasting up from the ground upward, and that's where we have our movement. So again, see what you think is happening in there. Okay, now we're going to look back to the west and just take a look at areas A and B. It starts to look like a harder object popping up here, so I want to take a look at that in a straight line here that has my attention. And then B, honestly, I don't remember why. Oh, I think there's something element popping up here, but we'll see it better in the enhanced version, yes. Okay, so there's a piece sticking out here with a very clear edge happening along here. There's also something happening in here I didn't flag. This thing is also just moving on its own motion. Again, pitched up on an angle where other things are more flat and even. There's also a harder, looks like a shape, with some dimension to it happening over here. And then we go to 8.1 and we see that looks clearly like a kind of a hard piece of some type to me, like a machine part. See what you think you see in there. And also this was just interesting for the color signatures, how it was nice, warm, tones below, going to cooler above, and then somehow still we have like pure white happening in the middle. See what you think is going on in that scene as well. Okay, here we go. This gets interesting. We've got angles, clear strips coming down this way with a, something not quite perpendicular but happening in there. And then we have a different cloud texture happening up here from what's happening down here. And then we have this little oddball cloud configuration at letter B. So we're going to look at this with enhancement, and a whole world opens up when we do that. So you can see this kind of ladder-like structure, moving along here. Two parallel lines. And, disturbed atmosphere. So to me that always means something is coming or going, maybe cloaking craft above to generate either electromagnetic waves or other type of wave activity in the sky. And then we come down to B.1, and that gets interesting on a closer up view. So here we start to see some ridges, some wave activity. And we're going to look at that with enhancement. You can see it a little bit better. But not only is this now wave activity, it actually looks like it has dimension and shadow to it. So this could be something cloaking, interdimensionally or otherwise. And again, this shape in and of itself is very odd. So I'm going to say there's cloaking craft in there. And if we look beyond these little pieces, I believe that this is part of an overall cloaking craft as well. Here we even see a bulge with some shadow down there. This looks like an arm of some type with prong at the end. See what you see in here. All right, then we're going to look at this pairing. On the left is the original, the right is the enhanced version. We'll look at A, B, and C on this one, so we'll spend our time on the right-hand side. 8.1 just looks strange, what starts to emerge and where the shadows are in the configuration of this overall very choppy scene. Then we have these little things. They're happening, parallel to each other. These three little segments. So it's kind of odd as well. This looks like it has a hole in it. So does this. This looks like it has a pipe pitching downward with a hole in it. And this looks like we're looking at the end of a pipe. That's what I see. Now, you may have to run this up on a laptop screen if you're looking at a mobile device or something, just to see some of the extra detail that I'm seeing. Or you might see it on whatever you're looking at. I hope you can. Now, B.1, I'm looking at because it has a different color signature. It's a little bit deeper. And also, it looks kind of like there's a hole happening in here, like this is some type of opening. Again, we've got some dimension popping off here on this material, this cloaking material, whatever that is. Then we have pure white, and then we get into some more, the reddish signatures happening down, closer to the horizon. And again, this is just a strange form kind of sticking out on its own on this strange angle, while everything else is leveled or doing some other thing. Okay, now this comes into us, this photo from a very kind Lavender Sky Panther viewer, and she just noticed this while driving on the highway. So here's an indefinite opening, in the midst of all of this cloud cover. We've got one clean opening at A, and something happening around the rim, which we'll get into. B, we've got a weird disturbance. It looks like kind of some type of pattern or structure happening in here. Cloud, in the cloud anyway, structure happening. Where we have some vertical elements with some horizontal elements. And then C and D, it's just strange. As you can see, it's kind of on its own page, doing its own thing. So we definitely want to look at all of this with some enhancement. And then E, we're just looking at an overall shape that looks like it's departing or has like a distinction. It's got like a outline around it that's different from the rest of the clouds happening. Hang on 1 second, too. Okay, I'm back. So now we have the enhanced version, and we're looking at 8.1. We have the blue of the sky beyond, but then we have a different kind of blue happening at the edge, so we'll zoom in on that in a minute. B.1, again, we're just seeing these parallel kind of lines moving in this way, but then we've got some verticals and horizontals. It's just strange. Actually, the horizontals look like they're cloaking material happening around the fringe of whatever this assembly is. And I do start to see a distinct shape here. It's different from here and over in here. And then E.1, we just see more of that where we've got that crack around, like an outline around this thing. Looks like a very flattened pointed ellipse to me that maybe even emerged out of that hole. Then we've got, we'll just look at that strange area that had some verticals to it, and we zoom in further and there's like a weird object. At B.3, look at B.4, look, it has shadow to it. And then we get these weird little, spherical or odd-shaped little chunks separated off of this thing. Just the whole scene's really weird. This is that, overall assembly of that weird darkened cloud. Then we're going to look at that weird darkened cloud and blow it out a bit in terms of brightness and some contrast, color saturation to get at what could be going on in there. So 8.2 just references where we had that hole in the sky. But anyway, we look and we see a little object looks like it's springing off of a bigger object. And this looks like a pointed elliptical shape, although there could be other shapes in here. And this looks more triangular, happening off to this side. So it's just bizarre. So I do think there's cloak and craft happening dead center. And I do think something, emerged out of that hole in the sky, which we start to see actually E.2, some little parts of that pointed ellipse have a darker signature, color signature. And then I know this is a bit mappy, so bear with me, but it's the best we could do. Zooming in on that hole in the sky, and there's just this weird configuration happening now at AA and 8.3. So we've got this, where it's more blue and more green. This is actually a pure ring. If you look at it, it looks like a donut with a hole in the middle and two prongs happening symmetrically out the back, I'm assuming. So to me, that could be a cloak and craft beyond. And I'm not sure what this thing is, but it could be some type of craft or object because it's got a strange shape, almost like a, clamshell opening, an asymmetrical one, and there's a bright point in the middle of it. So not exactly sure what's going on. You see if anything rings any bells for you as we look at this. Now this is super bitmappy. Again, bear with me. But here's that donut, with the hole in the middle and these two symmetrical prongs happening off the back. And then again, here's like this. It's not even really a clamshell, but you get what I mean. The concept of it, is something with a split opening. It looks like the pearl of the shell, so to speak. So something strange is happening here around the edge. And again, this is the blue of the open sky beyond. All right, now this is a photo from another very kind Lavender Sky Panther viewer, and thanks to both of you, you know who you are. This one now is out on the ocean, taken from a boat. And what's interesting here is we're obviously looking at a sunset with very strange cloud activity, I'm saying, because we'll see that better in a minute. But right now we're going to look at elements A, B, C, and D. So right off the bat, it looks like a giant shadow is happening behind here. And, we can see a darker shadow of color behind this thing. Now, I am going to call this a solar simulator. Do look at some of my other shows where I talk about that, such as The Sun Is Not Alone. We go into how there is an artificial sun that is, in front of our original sun. And there's a lot of documentation on other YouTube channels, Sky and Earth Watchers, and from around the world, people like me just taking, evidence of what we see on a given day and taking a deeper look at it. And there are patents pulled for the solar simulator back in the 60s even, things applied for. So if you take a basic look around on the internet, you'll see that and start to look into that phenomenon and that type of technology if you're not familiar with it. Anyhow, we are going to keep looking at other views of this scene just to see what's going on. So with enhancement, it gets a little more telling. So as we look at the sun, I'll put sun in quotes, we've got dark shadow now in this enhanced version where you can really see it, and it's even separating out where the sky would be illuminated to the left and to the right. We also have this reddish, color signature happening at the bottom, which is different from anything else happening around here, so it's just a very strange assembly. Then we're going to look at it again with a little bit different enhancement, and again we see some kind of darker body happening, behind this, and the brighter color returning left and right, and also the color signatures get very interesting. All right, well, this is the photo of the week and the close of the show. Thank you for heading over here a while and spending time with me on this show. It is Friday where I am. For others, I'm sure you're already starting your weekend. So wherever you are in the world, have a gorgeous day or evening. More importantly, an absolutely beautiful now. And I wish you tremendous love and peace. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.